Thank you. You may be seated. Good afternoon, Eastern. 7 years ago, I stood in the bleachers on the far side of the stadium, watching my sister graduate during a thunderstorm. And just 2 years before that, I saw my brother graduate in blistering 90-degree weather. Each time, I looked at them and thought, when is that ever going to happen to me? And now, I stand here in front of you, a little bewildered and confused, because this moment doesn't feel real. Relatively to an 11-year-old girl, graduating high school seniors, even my brother and sister, seemed really old. And this day, where all of our years in public school would come to fruition, seemed far, far, far away. In elementary school, I remember playing Foursquare during recess literally every day, or watching people play Barbie or Lincoln Logs or Yu-Gi-Oh! Whenever we had to stay inside. I still remember wanting those Razor flip phones, running outside while pretending to be superheroes, or watching a SpongeBob marathon or Tom and Jerry Slam Fest all day. In what feels like a blink of an eye, we've replaced recess with fitness days, flip phones with iPhones and Galaxies, and cartoons with lots of Netflix. Instead of pretending to be superheroes or Power Rangers, we pretend that we aren't procrastinators who didn't spend the entire afternoon watching Sherlock or House of Cards. In other words, time flies, doesn't it? It feels like we were just kids this Monday, and on Tuesday, we were super awkward preteens. Yesterday, we were just freshmen running cluelessly around Eastern, and now we're here about to say goodbye. Thinking along that idea, what's going to happen to us tomorrow and on the weekend? Well, figuratively speaking, what's going to happen to us tomorrow? Because realistically, we all know we'll be passed out in bed from project graduation all day. Fair warning, Mom. We're graduating today, and soon enough, we'll be walking out of commencement, having finished college or grad school or med school or whatever school we're moving on to. Soon enough, our last graduation will be upon us. So what happens to us when we finish what has been an entire lifetime of schooling? From the day we were born, we have spent our entire lives learning in school, having taken on the occupation of student. But the moment we take off our last robes, turn our last tassel, and say sayonara to our last school, does that occupation suddenly end? Does something that has spurred our mental growth as we physically grew from 3'6" to a solid 5'5", with heels for me, end the instant we are not technically students anymore? When that moment comes, that last hurrah, don't let that student side slip away, because it embodies so much more than the typical stereotype of the scholar learning from a teacher in a classroom. Don't get me wrong, we have learned plenty from our teachers over the years in terms of subject matter and academics, but we have learned infinitely more in the art of living and growing from all the people who surround us, from our peers, to our teachers, to our family, and to our friends. We have been so involved in the role of student that we were oblivious to all the non-traditional learning we have done by observing and thinking about the people around us. Every single one of us is special and flawed in our own way, so every single one of us is worth learning from. As kids who are born as natural students, this wasn't difficult to do, because it comes naturally to kids to take in what other people do to make themselves grow as a person. However, as an adult, it doesn't come as naturally. So many times, we simply close our hearts and minds and stay set in our ways, in the belief that our mental and emotional health finished in school. Thus, I implore you not to fall into this trap where you stop growing and learning from other people, because how can the growth that will define our entire lives end so soon? We live in an age where more people than ever are living to be 80, 90, or 100 years old. So why would we let the personal growth that occurred in less than 1/4 of our lives define our entire lifetime? Closed-mindedness and a know-it-all attitude can be really easy to fall into from here on out. But don't let that happen to you. Have an open heart and an open mind to the people around you who can teach us more than we already know if we simply let them. We've already been doing this our entire lives, even at Eastern. We've learned plenty from Eastern's teachers in terms of academia, but they've also taught us plenty of life lessons. They showed us how to turn common objects like a falling textbook or a puzzle into a metaphor about life, or how to use science as a fun excuse to make ice cream or play Beyblades, or how to perfectly coordinate our clothes to look amazing every single day. Though it should be noted that only someone as perfect as Miss Cook can pull that off. Our teachers have always been teaching us, and in fact, we, as the class of 2015, have always been teaching each other from the very beginning. Think about all the times you had to turn to the person next to you because you had no idea what your math teacher was talking about. Think about all the times you made mental notes not to do something like procrastinate on a physics or GT project because you saw someone else do it and realized that Roberts, Tapper, and Palmer will sniff that out faster than a canine unit. Think about all the times you've seen a classmate do something unique, like fold a paper box, write beautiful calligraphy, or solve some complicated math problem, and you ask them how they did it. From day one, we've been taking each other in to make ourselves grow, so we can wake up each day a little bit better than the day before. Therefore, don't stop here. Don't let our personal journeys end so soon. Our time as academic scholars, with the tassels and robes and cords, will end soon. But our time as life scholars, as I like to say, should never end. All of us are teachers and all of us are students, with the same purpose of learning to be a better person. Step by step, day by day, we'll grow into the best people we could possibly be if we simply keep our hearts and minds open to teachers around all of us. That said, thank you and congratulations to the class of 2015.